Alright, part two. This one going over the timeline of humans on Earth. But a couple things I want to clarify before getting into that, because I'm going to keep talking about these things. I don't want to describe them, but I'm going to give a name to them. And I will go over them in better detail in later episodes. But the first thing was, in the first part, I talked about the super beings, right? And I drew them as little angry guys who made the super beings who made Drevtam, right? I don't want to call them super beings. There is a group that is very important to the story, at least for humans, that refers to them as level ones, right? So not super beings, they are in fact level ones. And there's 4 levels. That's also an episode on itself describing the levels, but just know that super beings that created Drevtam, which creates the universe or universes, but there's only one for us, right? Level ones, right? And then that secret group, that secret society, right? That I'll explain in a bit. I don't want to keep calling them secret society, so I'm just gonna call them SHC. Right, SHC, which will just be secret human society. Right? These are the 2 terms, right? I want to clarify right now. So, with that, I'll get into the timeline for Earth, right? And a little bit of the universe, but that's not important, right? So, you have in our timeline, let me get a line here. Actually, let me give myself some space. Okay, so here, right, that's just the beginning of time, right? That's just the creation of the universe. Also, I'm sorry, my handwriting sucks. Universe. Cool. Not too important, though it's there. Whatever. And then things kind of just progress, right? Things form as we are used to within the universe. Planets, blah blah blah. Life comes about, but life comes about because of the level one's intervention. And then we, looking closer once again at humans. The next kind of big event, right, is roughly somewhere between 2000 BCE and 0, whatever that is. I'm just going to say roughly 2000 BCE. That is when the level ones intervene with humans, and they grant some people the access to Drevtam. That's when they first kind of introduced some people to the idea of Drevtam, and now they are gifted. The humans are gifted this knowledge, and they're able to start doing a lot of crazy things. Develop technology, right? Because once again, Drevtam is an energy field. Or it's a field, not necessarily an energy field, but you can derive energy from it, and so you get a lot of crazy kooky stuff, right? And so they get it, right? And then they kind of just like separate themselves, right? Maybe it's a little bit of we think ourselves to be more important to everyone else, or they thought we needed to hide this from people who might use it for things that aren't good. But the important thing is that the level ones gave them the primary goal, right? Their job for receiving this gift of knowledge is to protect and ensure the continuation of the human race, right? That's literally it. They're just like, make sure the human race survives. That's your only job. So yeah, and that's it's like the main goal, right? For the SHC, right? Eventually they do form the SHC. I should specify that. Yeah. So then roughly 500 BCE again. And I say roughly because they didn't really care about writing down dates and stuff like that. It was almost unimportant. Only until a certain point did they start doing that. So like the history is a little muddled, and maybe that was by intention, whatever. So at this point, right, the SHC has oh, I wrote interview. I apologize. I've not slept well. I keep intervention. Sorry. Okay, so here, this is roughly where, at this point, the SHC has they've gotten pretty advanced, right? And so at this point, they've developed like the ability to travel through space, and they're completely enclaved at this point. They are primarily looking at everyone else as, almost like test subjects. They're like, well, our technology is beyond theirs. We don't want to intervene. Let's just see what happens. In a way, it's kind of the role. They kind of do the same thing the level ones are doing, but relegated to just Earth. But they, there's some, not all of them agree on this approach. Some of them think that we should not do that. And I say we. They think they should not do that. They think they should be able to share this technology to kind of better everyone. Other people think, no, they're not. The level ones didn't give them this technology or this knowledge. They just don't deserve it. Blah 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 blah. There's a lot of things that kind of happen, and instead of like continuing the infighting, or even worse, like breaking out into war, they decide to split. So SHG split, and they go. They send all, using the space technology they have. They send out all of the colonies, I guess you can say. They just send a bunch of ships everywhere, and that's kind of the main. That's kind of the main kind of function for something like looking to create stories using humans, is that that's what it is. You have a bunch of people that went out to try to colonize planets. They had access to Drevtam. They had this technology. Some of them succeeded. Some of them failed. And yeah, the thing was because the people here, they didn't like each other, right? You're leaving. I don't care. Like, I feel like we all have this mutual understanding. We're not gonna like fight each other. It's not like worth it. That goes against like the primary goal of our society. But we can all agree on that part. But once you leave, I don't care. And so they all lost contact with each other. I say all, right? Maybe some did still talk to each other, but like the thousands that were sent out to colonize these various planets, they were like, fuck it, right? I don't care. Yeah. So next event is after quite a while, right? So we're looking at 780. And I say roughly because I myself just haven't given it a date. At this point, they were totally tracking dates. I just haven't decided. And this sentence might not make sense, but it will eventually. Is that the current host dies, right? Current host dies without replacement. Right, current host dies without replacement. That'll make sense eventually. I'll talk about what the host is. I am not writing stuff down properly. I don't know. Actually, I know exactly why, because I'm not sleeping. Anyways, okay. So current host dies without replacement. I'll explain what that is. Host is basically like the most important kind of role within SHC. It's like the very unfortunate position of being the person who has the primary contact with Drevtam. They're the closest kind of pivot point for the organization to access Drevtam and stuff like that. It's this whole thing. It's got its own lore and stuff like that. So, Kurnos dies, and they're like, oh, well, we need one. And they realize this, and so they start trying to reestablish connection with all the other people that left. It's been 2,000, almost 2,000 years or some shit like that. We should probably look into finding these other orgs and other planets and stuff like that. And there's varying degrees of success, and there's also stories to be made there. So, while this is happening, right, while SHC is still developing, we still have everyone that's not in SHC living on Earth, right? And they're doing their own thing. That's kind of like the history we're used to. Of course, it's a little different. But, they're still jamming out, right? So, roughly 1950 AD, the surface humans come across Drevtam. But of course, they don't know it's called Drevtam. Or I say surface, but I mean like anyone, like the normal surface also makes sense. The normal, I should say non-SHC. The non-SHC people come across Drevtam, but they don't know what it is, right? It's just this mysterious force that they don't understand, and they start having to try to research to see what it is, much like today, right? There's a bunch of we're dabbling in stuff that we don't necessarily understand. Maybe there's breakthroughs that need to happen. But they know it's there, right? But they can't really explain it. And there's a lot of phenomenon. It becomes a huge source for a lot of factions on Earth. Non-SHC people find Drevtam. They also don't name it Drevtam. They don't call it Drevtam because of what they don't know. Drevtam self-naming, that's also explainable, but they don't know. Yeah, and so that that becomes a huge point within society, is trying to figure that stuff out. Then, roughly we move ahead, right? They're still looking for, SHC is still looking for a new host, right? So, roughly 2234 AD, new host is born, right? New host is born, or at least they find one, right? Maybe there was one in between here, but they lived and died, weren't able to actually find them. Whatever, new host, very important character for what I've written so far. And I'll go into that at some point. And then we skip ahead a little bit more, right? Webcomic character now, 2240 AD. Letha is born, who is the main character for the webcomic, which is called Studies in Drevtam. As of making this, it's not out yet. Working on it though. And then I'm looking at my notes. I'm trying to think of what else is important to add. Nothing. The rest of it will be told in story. Definitely. Yeah. But yeah, that's roughly where it is, right? And then here's end of time, I guess. End of simulation. Whenever that might be, or if it ever is. End of sim, that is the Earth, or the universe. But yeah, what's my time? 14, a little long, but that's fine. I got through everything. Yeah, this is subject to change, hella. Like, very subject to change. especially in defining some of these dates, and as well as a lot of these terms don't make sense as of now, but they will. The next one, I think I'll go over the leveling system, because I mentioned that there are 4 levels, maybe 5 if you really want to think about it, but there's 4. I'll get into that next episode. So yeah, thank you.